Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and I've had a shitty day. My shower wasn't working in my apartment. I got a parking ticket, but you know what? I'm still smiling because it's going to be an awesome show. How the hell do I know that? Because we have awesome panelists on the program today. In fact, two returning panelists. We have Chrissy Chambers and Bria Kam. They are both YouTube personalities from a very successful YouTube channel that I'm sure you've all heard of. Bria and Chrissy, thank you for joining us, ladies.
Awesome, we're excited to be here.
Just so everyone knows, you're Bria, you're Chrissy.
That's right.
I know we went to a wide shot, so some of you might have been like, what the hell, who's who? But you guys are great, you've been on the show before, and we've had some really great discussions. So here's what we can look forward to on today's show. We're gonna discuss Ebola and the ignorance surrounding it. Apparently some Liberian rappers are trying to get the point across that Ebola is real. Also, a teacher gets into a literal physical altercation with a student and threatens the student's life. Also, a ridiculous video that Pat Robertson is in has to do with AIDS. What is he saying, and why is this ignorant old man still getting any attention? And birth defects that can actually give an arm wrestler an upper hand. That was a pun that I wasn't gonna make, but it somehow came out of my mouth. And also a couple having sex in the sea. Apparently they literally got stuck together. How did it happen, and what was the aftermath? So let's go ahead and start off with Ebola. The Ebola epidemic is a serious one, especially in West Africa, where more than 4,500 people have died as a result of contracting the virus. Now, one of the reasons why this virus has spread so rapidly is because there is a significant amount of ignorance surrounding this virus. Some people think that it's a hoax. They don't believe it's real. People have actually broken into hospitals with quarantined patients, and they've stolen items such as sheets and pillows and then sold it out in the streets, which of course also spreads the virus. And as a result, I mean, we have people in the United States now that have the Ebola virus. We have two nurses who took care of Eric Duncan, who was a man who traveled from West Africa to the United States, and as the nurses were treating him, unfortunately, they also contracted the virus. Now, of course, this is a serious story, and Liberian rappers by the name of F.A., Soul Fresh, and Den G want to really get the point across that Ebola is real and it should be taken seriously. Take a look.
You won't wash your hand with soap and cook your fuku. You won't not push me, Isa. When the bat eat the plum, don't eat it. When the monkey won't play, don't play with it. When someone irate and they're sweating too much, please avoid them. You won't tell your friend them. Ebola in town.
It's time to protect yourself. Ebola is here. Protect your family. Ebola is here. Protect your community. Ebola is here. 'Cause Ebola is here.
That was amazing. Okay, it was amazing because they're informing people that Ebola is real. They're telling you what you should do, the types of symptoms you should be aware of, and at the same time, there's like this great Caribbean background music, and it sounds like something you would hear when you're on vacation. But I absolutely love this. I want to hear what you guys think. Bria, let me start with you. Make your point.
I just wanted to say that I think the song is very pretty and it's very catchy.
It's definitely catchy, and that was a great pun. Good for you. All right, this is a punny show. I'm in favor of it. What about you, Chrissy?
I think the song was beautiful, and I feel like people at the CDC who are working on vaccines, they need to be playing this all the time. It can get you in a warm spirit and an inspired spirit to keep fighting against the virus.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to show them like the music video, if they ever make a music video, with some, subtitles in the background so people can understand exactly what they're saying. Because I gotta keep it real. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I understood most of it, but some of the verses I couldn't really understand.
I didn't understand any of the verses. I just got, Ebola is real, right. Ebola is here, and that should be enough.
What was one thing that you might have been ignorant on, but someone else came in and kind of educated you on it? Let me start with you, Chrissy.
Well, in my disgruntled junior high days of trying to fit in, I used to say that things were, oh, that's so gay, or oh, this person is so gay, like if they were being idiotic, something like that. And little did I know that what I was referring to obviously wasn't gay, but I certainly was. I just didn't know it yet.
That's really interesting. So you were using that kind of like terminology before even realizing your own sexuality.
Yeah, it was like what other people who were ignorant and not cool were also using, and so, just say it, and then you don't know till years later what something means.
So you kind of schooled yourself.
Schooled myself.
That's great. I love that. Bria, what about you?
My answer was going to be very similar because my word was fag, which I used to use all the time. All your peers and you use these words, you have no idea even really what they mean or what they stem from, and then you get into middle school and you're like, oh, that's really offensive. Maybe I shouldn't do that. So similar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are multiple issues that I'm still ignorant on, and I actually love it when someone comes in and in a polite way kind of educates me on the issues. When I think about my past, I mean, I used to have a very conservative political ideology. I actually used to be anti-gay marriage. This is when I was in high school. Anti-gay marriage, anti-legalizing prostitution, pro-drug war. And then life schooled me on how all of these things were nonsensical, right? So why am I against same-sex marriage? If people want to be in a consensual relationship and they love one another, who am I to go in there and tell them what to do? Absolutely. If we legalize prostitution, obviously we can regulate it and create a safer environment. If we get rid of the war on drugs, we can focus on rehabilitation as opposed to incarceration. So those are some past issues, but in the future, I feel like I'm looking forward to people schooling me on scientific issues, right? Because that's probably my weak spot. But keeping an open mind is probably the most important thing when it comes to learning about new things. And hopefully people in West Africa and the United States learn a little more about Ebola so we don't buy into the fear-mongering that we're seeing on Fox News, and we stop spreading the virus in other countries. Tell us what you guys think. I want to hear from you. What is one thing that you feel that you used to be ignorant on and then someone schooled you? Share your stories in the comment section below, and we'll see you guys soon. As a professor at a local university, I can definitely say that time to time there will be a student that might rub you the wrong way and you might want to get a little upset toward them, right? But any mature adult handles the situation like an adult should. You basically do not resort to violence and you find another way to deal with the conflict, right? Well, that's not what happened with one Baltimore teacher. She has been placed on administrative leave after getting into a bit of a scuffle with a 17-year-old student. Now, this is in the hallway of Carter Vocational Technical School. It happened last Friday. Take a look.
What? Let me know. Yeah. No, that's a teacher? Is it really? Damn. Tony, what is you doing, boy? Tony, what is you doing? Tony fucking crazy, yo. Oh. Tony's strong as a bitch, boy.
How is this teacher on administrative leave? Here's what happens as soon as I see a video like that and I'm a principal or an administrator in that school. You are fired, okay? You're done. You do not retaliate, you don't fight back. Even if that person threw the first punch, you don't do what you just did in that video. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Chrissy, what do you think? Make your point.
I mean, was she thinking when this girl was coming at her, like, I'll kill you? And then did she realize, oh God, did I say that out loud? Maybe I should go for it now. No holds barred, let's just street fight this. Like, the woman went crazy. Like, she was 17.
That's amazing. What do you think about this, Bria?
I feel like every single teacher at one point in their life goes, God, I'd really like to pull this kid's hair and throw them into a locker. But who actually does that? Especially when someone's filming. Like, if you're gonna do it, make sure there's no cameras around.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with you on that one. I mean, if you're gonna do anything violent, just check to make sure there are no cameras, no cops, and do whatever you can to make sure you get away with it, right? Yeah, exactly. Except for when you're a fucking teacher on a high school campus. It's so amazing. But I do wanna know if you guys ever had a teacher that you absolutely despised or felt like that individual had it out for you. I certainly have a story for this one. Can't wait to vent, but let me hear from you first, Bria.
Second grade, Jerry. Yeah, it was brutal. I don't know if I was like holding the blue crayon wrong or what it was, but he definitely didn't like me. And it got so bad that my parents actually had to come into school, sit down with this teacher, and like tell him like you were really picking on my child, which of course made him like me a lot more. So, yeah.
Oh man, my parents. You have good parents. My parents did something similar.
Oh, cool.
Chrissy?
I had a Spanish teacher in high school that was miserable with her life. She was young, I guess, freshly out of high school, and so I don't know if she hadn't fit in well or what, but she let her misery just bleed out into the classroom, and I could smile at someone in class and she was on me. I would just have to say about that, ella estaba loca.
Oh my God, this is amazing. We might have had the same Spanish teacher because my high school Spanish teacher was absolutely insane. I hate her. If she's watching this, know that I still despise you. She was the worst. Okay, so let me tell you about who I was in high school. I wanted to get into a good college. I knew what I wanted to do with my career. I was very, very driven. And so I wanted to get straight A's, obviously, right? And I would get straight A's, except I would always get a B in Spanish class. Now, you guys are probably thinking, Anna, you're being unbearable. Who cares? You still got into a good college. It's not a big deal, right? Except there was this one semester where I'm doing everything perfectly. I'm doing everything right, okay? I'm not messing up on anything. I'm there every single day. I'm getting perfect scores on the tests, whatever. And then I turn in an assignment, it was like homework or something, and a week later, when she's returning it so we can all see our grades, she doesn't return my paper. And so I was like, hey, but where's my paper? I want to see my grade. And she's like, oh, you didn't turn it in. She had lost my assignment, and then she said I never turned it in, right? So already I got some points docked off. Another thing she did was she was really strict about not letting us have open book tests or open note tests. So I always did all the studying necessary to make sure that, like, you know, I knew all the answers to the questions. Well, this one day, I knew we were gonna take a test, so I left my textbook in my locker. I come in and she notices I don't have my book, and she asks me, Anna, where's your textbook? And I was like, oh, well, we're gonna do a test today, so I left it in the locker. She's like, oh, okay. All right, guys, so today's test is open book. Fuck you! You're a terrible teacher. I don't know why you hated me, but I hope you have a miserable life. Anyway, tell me what you guys think. Comment in the section below, because I do want to hear if you had a teacher that was as terrible as mine was. And we'll see you guys soon. Televangelist Pat Robertson has said quite a few stupid things on his show, and recently on the 700 Club, he decided to address the issue of AIDS, and here's what he had to say.
Okay, this is anonymous. This person says, I'm planning to go on a mission trip to Kenya in December. I believe that God heals today, and I'm not consumed about the chance of contracting Ebola. I'm also a person who's willing to take practical precautions. However, some friends and family think that my decision to travel is foolish during this season, saying that I'm testing God and asking if I have a death wish. What do you think? I do not believe I'm being foolish, and I want to honor those around me, but I want to follow God's call on my life most of all. Do you think there are undue risks that we do not know about and the dangers are higher than perceived here in America?
Not in Kenya. You might get AIDS in Kenya. If people have AIDS, you got to be careful. I mean, the towels can have AIDS.
This man just said that the towels have AIDS. So if you know anything about HIV or AIDS, it is not transmitted through using the same toilet seat or through using the same towels. And that's the kind of ignorance that leads to ridiculous fear-mongering and paranoia in any society, and it makes me sick to my stomach. Bria, what do you think? Make your point.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's not the 80s. People do not perceive that you get HIV from toilet seats, mosquitoes, handshakes, and hugs. It's 2014. How you transmit HIV is through needles, blood, semen, breast milk, vaginas, pee-pees, rectums, and the occasional, if you drink, don't quote me on this, more than a gallon of someone's saliva, but not towels. Not towels.
Wow. So I didn't know it had to be a gallon of saliva. That's actually, you just actually educated me, so that's great.
Don't quote me on the exact number.
All right, Chrissy.
Well, you can't take anything that Phil Robertson says seriously. In 2010, he commented, he said that the Haitian earthquake, that it was a blessing in disguise, and that feminism is just an outlet for lesbians. So he's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, AIDS from towels, it's just insane.
I know. I think the worst thing is the misinformation and the fact that he has a platform to kind of spread that misinformation. We already have a news outlet that does that job for you. It's called Fox News, so we don't really need you to spread more misinformation out there. Here's the question for the story. Describe the most ignorant person you've ever had to deal with. Are you guys noticing a theme on today's show? It's like the shit-talking show. We're going back and we're venting about people from our past. Chrissy, let me start with you.
Yes, there was a girl from Mississippi that I went to high school with who was the most ignorant and homophobic person I've ever met. And she seemed to think that by me talking to her, she couldn't look me in the eye, that she would just catch my homosexuality like a disease. And I have to say, you know, I should have maybe just made a move because she was really cute. Maybe she would have liked it. I could have schooled her in that way.
I love it. All right, what about you, Bria?
Yeah, I'd like to say probably like a lot of our little social media friends believe that, you know, our lifestyle is a choice. And I just want to ask them, do you think that I wake up every morning like, hey, I want less rights than you? Yeah, let's do that.
No, I know, like the ignorance surrounding that specific topic is always amazing to me because I didn't wake up one day and decide I'm straight. I just realized like, oh my God, I have a crush on Somyajit, who's like the Indian boy in my kindergarten class, right? It just happened. It just happened. But anyway, yeah, I actually agree with you a lot, Bria. You know, being a public figure and getting constant feedback from the show, you get a lot of really great criticism and great feedback from some of your viewers, and then you deal with a lot of ignorance as well. So you'll research a topic, it'll be well researched, you'll be well read on it, and you'll report it, and then someone who has absolutely no idea what they're talking about comes back at you with, no, actually it works out this way. No. It didn't, right? So the best way to handle that is, of course, to ignore it. But, you know, it's not something that you should let get you down. You just kind of move on with your life. Ignorance is everywhere. Do your best to educate others. And if people are willfully ignorant, you just kind of let it go, right? Yeah. So share your stories, though, in the comment section below. I want to know whether or not there's currently someone in your life you're dealing with that's extremely ignorant. It could be an uncle or an aunt who comes to family dinners and just annoys you with their political opinions. Or it could be someone from your past. Share your stories in the comment section below. We'll see you guys soon. Some people really know how to take something like a genetic disorder and turn the negative into a positive. Case in point is a German-born arm wrestler by the name of Matthias Schleit. And apparently he has some sort of genetic issue that leads to one of his arms, his right arm, being 33% larger than his left arm. Now he's a 27-year-old who's gotten some pretty badass nicknames as a result of this genetic disorder. He's been called Popeye and Hellboy, but he also holds both national and international championship titles in arm wrestling. Now he's really proud of his strong arm. In fact, he recently did a commercial where you can see just how proud he is of his genetic disorder. Take a look.
Ich liebe meinen Sohn Matthias. Ist ein sehr guter Mann. Aber ich mache mir Sorgen.
Nobody knows what it's like to live with unexpected power. Growing up, I faced many challenges. My unexpected power kept getting in the way.
Sehr gut, ja?
I decided to become a professional arm wrestler.
Get it, get it. I love that commercial for so many different reasons. I want to open it up to the panel though. Chrissy, make your point.
I think it is amazing that he took something that he was once ostracized for and then turned it into what he's most revered for and proud of.
Absolutely. That shows you how resilient he is, and it's definitely inspirational. Yeah. Bria?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I love that this guy takes some...
I'm sorry, baby. We did our notes separately.
It's all right.
I love that this guy takes something that is a complete and utter weakness to probably the majority, you know, and becomes some badass strongman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the point I'd like to make about it is, regardless of what your problems are in life, it could be something that you're born with, it could be something that you're dealing with on a daily basis. It all depends on how you take that negative situation and react to it, right? So a bunch of negative things happened to me today. A really negative thing happened to me yesterday. It's been a shitty week, to say the least, right? But what do? Am I going to come into work and just be in a bad mood? Or do I come into work and say, hey, I'm here. I'm going to focus on the positives. I'm doing what I love. I'm here with two beautiful, intelligent women. Like, you just try to enjoy the good things in your life. And he somehow took that negative and he turned it into a positive. And now when I look at him, I don't even see it as a negative. I see it as something that makes him unique and something that makes him strong, literally, right? Mm-hmm. So it's great. I absolutely love it. Here's the question for the story. What is one thing you find yourself competing with others over? Chrissy.
I would say knowledge, mostly because since I didn't go to college, I've always felt like this pressure from society or lack of respect that you somehow have to prove your intelligence or knowledge in other ways since you don't have a college degree. So I'm always trying to stay educated and well-rounded on topics that I may have missed out on.
Yeah, what's really great about society today and technology today is you don't necessarily have to go to college to be intelligent. I mean, you have unlimited resources at the tip of your hands, or your fingertips, I should say, and you can learn about whatever you want. So the fact that you're actually intellectually curious means more than having that college degree, if you ask me. That's awesome. What about you, Bria?
I would say success. You know, it's similar to him. I was often doubted growing up, and I think that he was probably often doubted. And I think it's people who are doubted are often the most driven to become successful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my answer is a combination of both of what you ladies said. I want to learn as much as possible, and I want to be as successful as possible. But also, when it comes to the issue of competing, I think the person I want to compete with the most is myself, right? You always want to feel like you're improving more and more every day. And whenever I feel like I'm kind of stagnant, that's when I freak out the most. But what happens with you guys? What do you feel like you're competing with others over? And also, what do you think about Matthias and his reaction to this genetic disorder? Do you think he's resilient? Do you think he's lying to himself? Maybe you disagree with us. I'm very curious to see. Comment in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon. Some people like to engage in some risky sexual behavior, and one couple off the coast of Italy are no exception, all right? There were two individuals having sex in the ocean near Porto San Grigio, and as they were doing this, they literally got stuck together due to suction. Now, some way, somehow, they fought themselves or fought their way back to shore, and they called the authorities, and they went to the hospital immediately. Apparently, doctors had to give the woman an injection that's commonly used to dilate the uterus of a pregnant woman, and then they were able to separate, okay? Like the gesture, separate. That's the story. I honestly don't know how legitimate this story is, but I think it's interesting to say the least, so I want to hear what you guys think. Bria, make your point.
It was actually a woman who first discovered these individuals, and could you imagine what she was thinking, like as they were coming out, and she was like handing them a towel, and she's like, four-legged creature coming from the ocean.
Oh, girl, you dirty.
Oh, no,
you dirty.
I was just saying they were coming out of the ocean.
Chrissy, I like that.
Whose idea was it? Was it the guy? Was it the girl? Did they have too much to drink? What were they thinking? Did they get sand in there? I mean, it's just, I don't know whose idea it was to go in the ocean, but obviously they should have kept it on dry land. It was not their lucky night.
Yeah, I mean, look, they were having fun. They were trying something different. You know, I mean, I don't know if the ocean's really the place for me, but I like that they were adventurous. But there are consequences to pay when you're having risky sex. Sorry, you know, all of a sudden you're stuck together and you gotta get separated through, I don't know, getting induced labor, basically.
It's like the adult version of getting your braces stuck together when you're a teenager and making out.
That's actually a really good
much
analogy.
Worse version.
Yes, I love that. Well, have you ever been caught doing something that you shouldn't have been doing? Bria.
As you know, me and Chrissy, we do some pretty ridiculous things. So this one time, we decided it'd be a really good idea to dress up as pregnant, drinking and making out on street corners. And so that was fun until security came and escorted us off the property. So that was cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What about you?
Well, we, for the 2012 Democratic Convention, dressed up as Anne and Mitt Romney and walked around exclaiming that we had come to the wrong convention. And that was very entertaining. And we've come to the wrong convention.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting over in Charlotte.
Did anyone get upset with you guys?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, Fox didn't like it.
Fox did not like that.
For the most part, people were pretty accepting and thought it was great.
I think it's great. That's hilarious. I feel like this year has been the year of me doing things that I shouldn't be doing and getting caught. Yesterday, actually, as I was driving 3 of my coworkers to lunch, I made an illegal U-turn, and I made sure to look and make sure that there were no cops there when I made the U-turn, and literally the second I turned the wheel, a motorcycle cop comes from the opposite direction and he pulls me over. Now, the thing that makes this story a little more interesting is the cop was probably a crooked cop because he was yelling at me. The first thing he asked me was why I was laughing, and I wasn't laughing at all. It was almost as if he was trying to provoke like a violent defensive reaction, which I didn't have, of course. And then even though I was being completely compliant, I didn't argue with him, I didn't disagree with him, I literally told him I deserved the ticket, he asked me to step out of the vehicle and go back to where his motorcycle was. And then he started asking me a bunch of inappropriate questions. And one of the inappropriate questions he asked me was, what do you do that's so important that you had to make a U-turn? I never even mentioned work, right? So I thought it was interesting that he mentioned it. And then I was like, oh, I work as a reporter. And he's like, oh, there's a newspaper company down the street? And I was like, no, it's a broadcast news show called The Young Turks. What do you report on? Headline news and politics? And he's like, what are you gonna report about today's incident? And I was like, I'm not gonna report anything about it because I don't report on my personal life. I lied. Okay. And then he said, are you famous? And then I was like, that's a fascinating question. A little bit. And then he closed his citation book. I think there was a very creepy element to him having me step out of the car so he can look me up and down, right? And so that was a crazy story, and I was so relieved that he had let me go that I didn't look into it further. But had I relived that situation, I would have gotten his badge number and I would have actually investigated that, because there was no reason for him to pull me out of the car, no reason for him to ask me inappropriate questions. One of the questions he asked me was, when was the last time you deserved a ticket? Something very creepy about that guy. But anyway, the story has now evolved to me getting a ticket or not getting a ticket. But it was interesting, to say the least. I shouldn't have done that U-turn. I got caught in public. But enough about me, let's hear about you. What have you done in public that you got caught doing that you shouldn't have been doing? We want to hear in the section below. It could be salacious, it could be a traffic violation, it could be anything. We love hearing from you guys, so share your stories. And remember to subscribe if you haven't, because we absolutely love our regular viewers. We love people who stumble across the show. You guys are awesome. You make the show worthwhile. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I want to thank our awesome panelists today, Chrissy Chambers and Bria Kam. Where can they find you?
They can find us at youtube.com/Bria and Chrissy, and we do comedy,
singing, comedy.
Yeah, and try to make people feel good. So it's
and
fun.
Also, we just put out our merch today, so today's a big day. We have our merch at briaandchrissy.com, and that's the newest.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Love having you. I'm Anna. You guys can check me out on The Young Turks Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's on youtube.com/TheYoungTurks or tytnetwork.com. You can check out my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ana Kasparian. Follow me on Instagram, Ana Kasparian TYT, and Twitter @Ana Kasparian. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week with another episode of The Point. The virus. Now, of course, this is a serious story, and Liberian rappers by the name of F.A., Soul Fresh, and Den G want to really get the point across that Ebola is real and it should be taken seriously. Take a look.
You won't wash your hand with soap and cook your fuku. You won't not push me, Isa. When the bat eat the plum, don't eat it. When the monkey won't play, don't play with it. When someone irate and they're sweating too much, please avoid them. You won't tell your friend them.
Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and I've had a shitty day. My shower wasn't working in my apartment. I got a parking ticket, but you know what? I'm still smiling because it's going to be an awesome show. How the hell do I know that? Because we have awesome panelists on the program today. In fact, two returning panelists. We have Chrissy Chambers and Bria Kam. They are both YouTube personalities from a very successful YouTube channel that I'm sure you've all heard of. Bria and Chrissy, thank you for joining us, ladies.
Awesome, we're excited to be here.
Just so everyone knows, you're Bria, you're Chrissy.
That's right.
I know we went to a wide shot, so some of you might have been like, what the hell? Amount of ignorance. surrounding this virus. Some people think that it's a hoax. They don't believe it's real. People have actually broken into hospitals with quarantined patients, and they've stolen items such as sheets and pillows and then sold it out in the streets, which of course also spreads the virus. And as a result, I mean, we have people in the United States now that have the Ebola virus. We have 2 nurses who took care of Eric Duncan, who was a man who traveled from West Africa to the United States, and as the nurses were treating him, unfortunately, they also contracted who's who. But you guys are great. You've been on the show before, and we've had some really great discussions. So here's what we can look forward to on today's show. We're going to discuss Ebola and the ignorance surrounding it. Apparently, some Liberian rappers are trying to get the point across that Ebola is real. Also, a teacher gets into a literal physical altercation with a student and threatens the student's life. Also, a ridiculous video that Pat Robertson is in has to do with AIDS. What is he saying, and why is this ignorant old man still getting any attention? And birth defects that can actually give an arm wrestler an upper hand. That was a pun that I wasn't gonna make, but it somehow came out of my mouth. And also a couple having sex in the sea. Apparently they literally got stuck together. How did it happen, and what was the aftermath? So let's go ahead and start off with Ebola. The Ebola epidemic is a serious one, especially in West Africa, where more than 4,500 people have died as a result of contracting the virus. Now, one of the reasons why this virus has spread so rapidly is because there is a significant